I'm going to get this down. Is this better? Is this better? Okay, at any time you can't hear me, please raise your hand. Okay, is that better?
Speak into the mic.
I have a timer giving me cues. That's why I'm stopping. Okay, I think we'll get started. Good evening. My name is John Stride. I'm the president-elect of the City Club. Welcome to all of you to our Portland Mayoral Candidate Forum. Before we begin, would you kindly please silence your phones? Thank you. Since 1916, the City Club of Portland has produced nonpartisan public forums, debates, and research to help Portlanders make informed decisions about elections and public policy. The City Club is committed to providing space for people to gather and engage in civic dialogue to promote respectful discussions and positive change. Members make the City Club run by providing ideas, doing the research, and planning programs that address issues important to our local community. This includes our event tonight, which we have sponsored free of charge to you as our service to the community. Please show your support for our mission by visiting pdxcityclub.org and donate or join. Or otherwise, let us know how you can engage with us at City Club. And remember, on the website you can find video recordings of all City Club public events, including this one tonight. And we thank you for all your support. Thanks to Robin Denberg and Sam Metz, the co-producers of tonight's event, and to Gila Kennick, City Club's communication manager, for help with this program. Thanks also to Wynn Markela in front for serving as our timekeeper. Would you raise your hand, Miss? We're nice to see you. Thank you. And a special thanks tonight to AARP, our season sponsor. We are grateful for your support. Now I'm pleased to announce some upcoming events. On Wednesday, October 16th at 6 p.m., we will host an in-person program in Northeast Portland at the Alberta Rose Theater, featuring retiring longtime Congressman Earl Blumenauer. Congressman, yes. Congressman Blumenauer will spend the time reflecting on his long and esteemed career. We are also planning an Attorney General forum in the Coyne studio with moderator Ken Bobby and with candidates Will Lathrop and Dan Rayfield. This program will be broadcast on Coyne at 7 p.m. on October 16th, immediately following Congressman Blumenauer's presentation and reflections. So it'll be an exciting evening for City Club at night. For details and registration, visit our website. Now to tonight's program. This November, Portland voters will elect a new mayor under a new charter via ranked choice voting. This is one of the most unusual municipal elections in Portland's history, and I might say the country. Under the new charter, a project in which City Club played a key role by publishing 2 research reports, the new mayor holds a unique position, unlike any previous Portland mayor. Our mayor presides over city council, but only votes to break ties. The mayor hires the city manager, but has no daily administrative authority over any city department. With candidates having diverse viewpoints and experiences, what qualities will Portlanders want in a mayor facing this untried new world of city administration? Finally, Portland voters must select from 19 candidates for this position. Faced with the challenge of creating a form that respects candidates' response times, maximally benefits you, the audience, and doesn't exhaust all of our attention spans, the City Club invited 5 candidates who qualified for the city's small donor election program. To qualify for this program, the candidates collect at least 750 individual donations, each of which must be no more than $350. We are honored that all 5 qualified candidates accepted City Club's invitation and are seated before you tonight. They are, starting at my left, Rene Gonzalez, Mingus Mapps, Liv Osthus, Carmen Rubio, and Wilson. The City Club wishes to thank all of you for your effort in running for this job. Our program tonight is moderated by Jeff Mapps, former journalist for OPB and former chief political reporter for the Oregonian. He has written extensively about land use, suburbs, and cities. He most recently created Growing Oregon, a podcast covering Oregon's statewide growth management system. Jeff created tonight's questions based on his multi-decades covering Portland, Multnomah County, and state politics. Plus, you all submitted questions when you registered, and we hope to get to those as well. Here are tonight's rules of engagement. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves. Jeff will then pose questions and allow each candidate 1.5 minutes to respond. If Jeff chooses to do a follow-up, candidates have 1 minute to respond. Jeff may include lightning round or 2, in which candidates may respond in 20 seconds or less. Again, our timer, keep your eye on her. Jeff will advance each candidate answers first. If a candidate chooses to respond to or challenge something said by an opponent, they may do so during their next responses. Our timekeeper, Wynn, will display remaining time to the candidates and the moderator. We ask candidates to respect the time limits. Now, please join me in welcoming our candidates and our moderator, Jeff Mapps.
Let's see if a radio professional can do a live microphone. I don't know, a little different here. Yeah, well, I don't know, you guys look awful serious. A lot of ties up here. It's Portland. At any rate, so I really appreciate this audience too. This is wonderful. It's says something about the civic nature of Portland. And it couldn't be any more important than this year, when not only do you have to figure out who your primary choice for mayor is, who you really want to vote for, but as many as 5 additional candidates. And I'm still getting my head around how the heck I do that. And I've spent a living covering politicians. Maybe that makes it harder, I don't know. But at any rate, I think it's really admirable that so many people are keying in and really learning a lot about the candidates. So, as John said, let's get first to the introductions. We're going in alphabetical order, just like elementary school. So, Rene Gonzalez, you're first.
Thank you. And I just want to thank the City Club for hosting today, and thank you all for engaging in this historic election. My name is Rene Gonzalez. I'm a fifth-generation Portlander, father of three, and lifelong Democrat. I have proudly served you as a city commissioner for just over 20 months. And during that time, I have been the standard bearer for public safety and livability in the city of Portland. Today, there are more firefighters, police officers, 911 dispatchers, and ambulances on the streets of Portland than when I entered public service. We have seen drug recriminalization and decreasing 911 wait times, in part through my leadership. I have worked with my colleagues on City Council to support large village sites with services that are showing success well before they were popular. And I'm running to be your next mayor to continue that work. I'm looking to serve a city centered on the following values. Families can grow in the city. Seniors can age in place. Portland will be welcoming to all who abide by the social contract. I also look to see your next mayor as a champion across this globe, across this country, to tell of Portland's good graces, to protect it from chaos, and to be an advocate for taxes paid and quality of services. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi folks, my name is Mingus Mapps, and I am running for mayor. Let me start out by thanking the City Club for putting together this forum, and I also want to thank you for coming out tonight. As you heard, I do truly believe this is both the most unique and most important election that Portland has seen in the last 100 years. Now, I'll tell you, when I look around this crowd, I see lots of familiar faces and some new ones too. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. As I said, my name's Mingus, longtime Portlander. Most important, a dad of two boys, 14-year-olds and 15. Both are in high school at this point. Served on council for the past term, essentially. During my time on council, I have been your infrastructure commissioner, so I've been the guy in charge of water, roads, and environmental services. My portfolio accounts for about 1/3 of the city's employees, half the city's budget, and 95% of the city's assets. During my time on council, I've been key in bringing down call wait times at 911, bringing on more police officers. As your next mayor, I'm going to focus in on homelessness, public safety, and economic recovery. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a great honor to be here amongst you and to see so many Portlanders so passionate about city politics. The last time I had a crowd this big was at the Moda Center when I delivered a TED Talk in 2022. This is very exciting engagement. So my name is Liv Osthus. That's Norwegian for Viva Las Vegas. I've been a dancer downtown at Mary's Club, a family-run business, for the last 28 years. Thank you. I was born in South Dakota, raised in Minnesota. My dad's a preacher, my mom's a teacher. I went to Williams College. I studied cultural anthropology. I lived in Germany and East Africa and Indonesia all the time. I'm just studying how cities do things great and how they do things not so great. I come from an artist background. I've spent 28 years dancing, having bands, singing opera, and raising a daughter who's 9. I have 2 published books. So I bring a very different background to the mayor's race. I'm running because I want to see new leaders. I'm tired of seeing the same old leaders the politicians lead. In my travels, I've seen different leaders, matriarchy, chiefs. It's time for a different mayor, a different leadership, and this type of mayor system, the weak mayor, is perfect for a new leader who can be a visionary and a storyteller. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for having us here tonight, and thank you to City Club for hosting. So I am the daughter and granddaughter of immigrants, and I grew up, and I am a lifelong Oregonian, and I'm running for mayor because I love the city, and I'm also running because I have an honest recognition of where we are as a city, both our problems and our strengths. And I don't have to tell you that we have serious work to turn our city around. And that's why we need a mayor who will meet the urgency of the moment and get things done. And tonight you'll hear many of the same things that we all largely agree on. We all want more safe streets and neighborhoods and more police officers in our city. We all also want more state and federal funds to tackle homelessness and more housing. And we also are committed to revitalizing our downtown core and strengthening our small businesses. We know what our work is and what it's cut out to be. But talk and actions are meaningless. Outcomes are what matters. So the real question before you is who will deliver effective solutions on these important issues? I'm the only candidate who's shown time and time again the ability to tackle these big issues and produce real results for Portland. From catalyzing housing development at every level and for reforming our permitting process to unlocking millions of dollars from the Portland Clean Energy Fund and putting it into the local economy and the community. I know how to build coalitions and to call the questions and get things done. I believe in our city, and I also believe with common sense, collaboration, and hard work, our best days are still ahead, and we can get there together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you to the City Club for this discussion, and good evening, everybody. My name is Keith Wilson, and I'm running for mayor to deliver real change to Portland. We need to take a hard look at where our city is today. Over the past year, Portland had the worst job creation out of 50 cities. Office vacancy rate is at 30% and climbing the worst in the nation. And we now have the highest unsheltered homeless rate in America. Our new form of government needs someone who knows how to build teams, who understands logistical complexity. It needs an innovator with the leadership and the grit that can get the hard jobs done. My opponents had years to build coalitions and deliver results, and haven't. They've refused to follow the path that other cities have taken to solve the most crucial issues of our time. They've wasted hundreds of millions of dollars. And as a result, we've lost families, jobs, small businesses, and worst of all, lives. Look, if you like the way the city's being run, then I'm not your guy. But if you want real change, then vote for me. My experience is vast and relevant and will meet the crucial moment that our city now faces. The Portland Renaissance that we all want is within our reach. And together, if we work together, we can repair, restore, and revitalize this most incredible city that we all love. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Let's get right to the questions. The Multnomah County Chair says that after a big reset last year, the Joint City-County Housing Office is making substantial progress in combating homelessness. Should we continue down this track, or do you have a better approach? Mingus Mapps, you're up first.
Thank you. I'll tell you, three of my colleagues, or the three of us also spent this morning meeting with the Multnomah County Board of Commission to get an update on what's happening at the joint office. And I will tell you, while I respect the hard work that is done, I am not satisfied with the progress we have made. One of the things that you can do, and I encourage you all to go and do it, is to take a look at the city's dashboard on the houseless camp boarded city. If you take a look at that over the past 6 months, increase despite the reforms that the county has put forward. I think this is a clear sign that our path forward, or the path that we're on, hasn't worked. That's why I voted against renewing the contract with the joint office, and that's why in a few weeks I will make it to my that we need to go in a different direction. Now let me be clear, the city and the county work together. to solve homelessness, but what's missing from this conversation is a clear delineation of what the city's role in this space is and what the county's role in this space is. Until we define our lanes, we are not going to make progress.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So yes, we need to find our lanes, absolutely. I would advocate for some top-down pressure there because we've been trying this for a long time and it hasn't improved. We can't just bail out of the county relationship, in my opinion. There are lives at stake. We do put plenty of money into that pot. To take that away and try to do it on our own, to me, would be a waste of time and resources. So other states have a top-down model. There are people suffering all along the coast. There are houseless people in Roseburg. There are houseless people in the Dalles. And this population moves around. So let's coordinate with the governor. Let's coordinate with the feds. Let's get all the streams of funding coming through and then make sure that these people are tracked. We have to get a system. That could be pennies on the dollar to make sure that the people experiencing houselessness, we know what they've tried, we know what their addictions are, we know who their family members are, and what resources are or have been available to them. That's the bare minimum, and I definitely advocate for staying in this relationship, making that relationship functional, and then getting more coordination throughout the state, because this is not just a Portland problem. Obviously, that's not the case. Thank you.
So I too believe that we need to stay in the agreement, but it doesn't mean that we have to settle for half measures or that we can't change. And this to me is really about roles. We have different roles as in our jurisdictions. The city is responsible for the rights of way, it's responsible for infrastructure and basic services, and the county is health and human services and libraries and other things. And we have this interdependence around this issue, and like it or not, their success is our success and ours is theirs. So we each are responsible for holding up our corner of the system. The difference is we need to make sure that there's leadership there to break through the impact and make sure that our corners of the system are working and functional. And we need that leadership to also stay the course and know when to pivot and when to change things. I think it would be disastrous for our city to actually exit now, or we're in the middle of a crisis and we're actually seeing some actual results in some of the work that the city is doing together and pushing the county to do more. So we need to do that, but we need to have trusted also relationships, and we need to have adults stay at the table, and that's what we are elected to do.
Jeff, I'm going to make you earn your wage tonight. Would you repeat that question, please?
Okay, the Multnomah County Chair says that after a big reset last year, the Joint City-County Housing Office is making substantial progress in combating homelessness. Should we continue down this path, or do you have a better approach?
So when we say that we're making substantial progress, our unsheltered homeless rate grew 887 people last year. So if the progress is that we're not adding more unsheltered at the fastest pace that we've experienced ever before, the answer would be no, we're not making progress. We know in Portland that 400 of those individuals that are living on the street this year, 400 out of 5,398 are most likely going to die. That's not progress. When we look at other cities that have proven that you can end unsheltered homelessness, like Boise with 115 people on the street, and Boston with 119, and Philadelphia with 788 at half, we're half the size that they are. We're not making progress. The question is will I partner with Joint Office Homeless Services? You bet. We're in an emergency. We need all of us working together. This isn't about blowing up a contract. This is about creating a clear plan with an objective. I've done the research. I've gathered the team. I've opened shelters, and I have a roadmap to begin to end unsheltered homelessness next year. With the county as partners, we will create clear key performance indicators, and we will hold each other responsible for the hundreds of millions of dollars that we're wasting with no results. It's not about being ambitious. It's about not leaving our neighbors on the street with no resources anymore and allowing our city to become the most livable city in America again so we can all enjoy it. Thank you.
I think as a baseline, we have to acknowledge some realities about systems. So the county form of government is a legacy of 19th century Oregon. I think it's really misplaced in a modern urban setting. That's a baseline that informs much of the dialogue on this question. There's no doubt we have to cooperate with the county, regardless of how that relationship is defined. But we're in this with them no matter what, acknowledging those structural weaknesses in our model. I will say the city is better at some aspects of this than the county is. We did a much better job of setting up task sites and safe rest villages. We do a much better job of taking into account the impact on neighborhoods of placing a safe rest village or task site. There are substantial management considerations anytime you propose putting a shelter in a neighborhood. And I think the city does a better job of that. We have to work together to be strong advocates for behavioral health at the state level, and we've got to do that with the county. Comparisons to Massachusetts and Idaho are misplaced. These are states that have much better behavioral health systems, and you see it on their streets. Thank you.
Okay, I want to follow up on this issue. You know, it strikes me that there are some really, really hard choices that we have to make to get on top of this problem, and I'm not sure that we've really been articulating what those are. I mean, do we have to be tougher on people living in the street? Tell homeowners our neighborhoods need more infill? What are some of the really hard choices that maybe too many people who have to deal with this problem are shying away from? Liv Osthus, you're up first.
The hard choices that the houseless are shying away from, the hard choices that leaders,
Policymakers have.
policymakers are shying away from.
Running for mayor.
Yes. Thank you for that reminder. These are human beings out there. So my campaign leads with compassion. We cannot destabilize vulnerable people further and call that a solution. True, what Rene said about Massachusetts and Idaho, they deliver better social services. Central City Concern hosted a great forum. I asked them, why is Massachusetts so much more successful at this? They have a centralized healthcare system, and partly that's because the difference is in Oregon we have a lot of privately owned hospitals. So right there, that prevents us from coordinating services. That's going to be really hard for the city to agitate for, but as a mayor, as a leader in this weak mayor system, you have a bully pulpit. That's about all you have. You can agitate for, let's try this differently. We need services coordinated because people are suffering, and these suffering people are not going to be magically disappeared by putting them in jail or by moving them around, taking away their tents. That's not forward progress at all. And I think that's probably a minute. Is that all I get? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I'll just wrap it up there. I think I said enough. Thank you very much.
So I also agree there are a lot of external issues that are contributing to the crisis that we're seeing on the streets. And it's lack of housing. You know, I am fully supportive of the governor's charge around creating more housing. And for Portland, what that means, just to give you an idea, is 120,000 new units over the next 20 years. And right now, we're not building. It's a slow year because of the economy. And so we're already behind. We're not keeping pace. We also do need more density because we need to make sure that we are actually near places of high transit, near local amenities, because different areas of the city don't have equal access to all of those things. And those are squarely in the jurisdiction of the city and Metro, so we are working and tackling those issues. But external, we also have a need for mental health and addiction services, which some folks have talked about already, and those are the jurisdiction of the state. And we cannot be functional at the city level where when other systems are broken, we end up having to engage with them at the local level when we don't have funding and we don't have authority. So it's vital that we're pushing on our leaders at the state and federal level for more funding, to build out those systems of mental health, to capacitate our addiction services so that we have them ready to go on day one, and that when people need those services, they're ready and there. It also means workforce is an issue for us too.
Would you please read that question again?
What are the really hard choices we have to make to get on top of this problem? Do we have to be tougher, for example, on people who are now living on the street? Tell homeowners that our neighborhoods need more infill? What are the really tough choices that we're kind of shying away from because they are tough?
There's a whole different way. There's a whole bunch of ways I can handle this. I'll go back with the comment with one of the answers that Rene had mentioned. He said that we're not Idaho, and the mayor of Boise will be here on Thursday night. We're going to have a forum in this same building right now on ending unsheltered homelessness. So I don't want you to trust me as far as having the answers. I want you to talk to the people who have only a few dozen people on their streets at night versus our thousands. Come here on Thursday night at 6:30 and ask the former mayor of Boise who ended unsheltered homelessness yourself. If you trust him, then perhaps you'll trust that I've done the work, that I've put the time in, that we need to change Portland around. What are the tough choices we need to make? 50% of all arrests this year are going to be of our unsheltered homeless. So the mayor's going to come and he's going to talk to you about how when he ended unsheltered homelessness, he went from hundreds of arrests, just like Portland. We're wasting our police officers' time. They're not responding to us. 10 years ago, it took 6 minutes for an officer to arrive in a priority 1 call. Today, in your worst time of need, it's 24 minutes. We are unsafe in the city of Portland. We need to be made safe. And what the mayor of Boise is going to tell you, he's going to say when he ended unsheltered homelessness, when he surged up, his arrests the previous year went from hundreds to he only had 6 the following year. Care for your most vulnerable, you care for your community, you restore and you revitalize your community. Thank you.
The Wilson plan, bringing chaos and crime to a church near you, and repeating the same mistake that Ted Wheeler made 8 years ago when he promised he was going to end unsheltered homelessness, without confronting the really tough issues of enforcement. Idaho was one of the toughest states in the country on homelessness. They were so tough, they led to a horrific Ninth Circuit decision that impacted Oregon in how we address this difficult issue. Boise's mayor didn't end homelessness in the city of Boise. They benefited because people could say no in the state of Idaho. There is no getting out of our unsheltered challenges in the city of Portland without enforcing camping bans and enforcing basic expectations for public behavior. We will get migratory homeless from the suburbs. We will get migratory homelessness from red states. This is a pattern that has repeated itself over and over again in our city's recent history. We must enforce those bans. At the same time, we do have to be advocates to the neighborhoods that you've got to allow for a certain amount of shelter and housing infill. There's no way we get out of this if we don't address the supply of shelter and housing in our community. And so there's a number of tough decisions, but we have to be willing to say no as a community, no camping in our parks, no camping in our sidewalks, no public drug use, and we'll offer you shelter. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, and I appreciate the dialogue today. I think the question on the table is, what are some of the hard choices that you have to come to terms with in order to solve our homelessness problem? And I think one of the things we have to come to grips with, and frankly we haven't come to grips with this issue in the context of Portland, is the tension between rights and responsibility. Everybody in Portland who's out on the streets is free and deserves to be able to do what they want to do, but we also have some real responsibilities here. We have in Portland a real challenge talking and taking the responsibility part of this seriously. At the same time, I think it's important to note that being homeless is not a crime. At the same time, being homeless is not a get out of jail free card. So I do very much agree that we need to enforce our various laws, whether they deal with camping or public use of drugs in our spaces. I'll tell you, one of the utterly difficult choices that we have to make here is to clarify the relationship between the city and the county. Frankly, it is to the county's advantage to keep that relationship big, because if we keep it big, the city hands over tens of millions of dollars to the county every year, and we have no control over how that gets spent. Other hard choices are going to be around mental health and addiction services, and specifically the degree to which we can actually compel folks to take up mental health services or take up drug addiction services. Right now, you're pretty hands off there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. As John mentioned in the introduction, several of the questions do come from members of the City Club, and I want to ask one from one of them regarding the Portland Police Bureau. Several questions about that. You could almost flip a coin on how you want to approach it, but I'll ask this one. The Portland Police Bureau is struggling to regain the trust of the communities they are sworn to protect. How will you help rebuild that trust? Carmen Rubio, you're on first.
Thank you. So everyone, I will say, first deserves to feel safe in our city. And no matter where you live or what language you speak or who you love, being safe and public safety is one of the most basic city services that we can provide for our residents. And the data shows actually that crime is going down and trending downward, but people still don't feel safe. And so we need to close that gap. And our city has really changed a lot over the last decade, and so we really need to revisit what that notion of public safety means and expand it. And that for me means having the right responders in every role. And for me, another big part of that answer is bringing back community policing into the way our officers do their work in the city of Portland. We used to do it, and we used to do it very well. And we all know that when people feel connection, when neighbors know officers and officers know business people, that sense of community and activation, safety goes up, connection goes up, and crime goes down. And so we really need to bring that back into Portland. It also means hiring more officers who reflect the Portland of today and are trained in Portland values. And I'll be the first on stage to say that Chief Day has released his plan for getting 1,000 new officers in 2 years or so, and I trust him to get that job done. And also 911 response calls need to go down as well, because you should never be kept waiting on one of the worst days of your life. But also new parts of our system like Portland Street Response, detox and deflection, and responding to those in need. Thank you.
No, I will not need you to repeat the question. So we have to reduce the burden on our overloaded public safety system. I talked to you the last question. I explained the delay in their response times. We know that 50% of their arrests are being sheltered. I went out with the neighborhood response teams about 8 months ago. We arrested a gentleman. He was addicted to fentanyl, living in a camper. And he had been arrested 9 times in 3 months. This is impacting your safety. So we brought that man back into the station, went through the process, and he walked out 2 hours later. Did we really help that person? And did we help you? We're in this cycle of doing the same thing over and over again. We're criminalizing and giving him another citation. He owes thousands, tens of thousands of dollars instead of providing a shelter, a safe shelter, like most cities in America does, except for a few cities on the West Coast. And because of that, now Chief Day closed our property crime division 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. We all read about it. His terrible choice was, does he remove people or officers on the domestic crime, child welfare side of it? Or does he reduce property crime division? What a horrible choice that our chief has to make because he's understaffed. And now Portland, The arrest rate for property crime is 5%. It is open season in Portland. We've got to do something different. We are shoulder to shoulder with Oakland and St. Louis by adding, thank you.
So in terms of restoring trust, I think Portlanders are demanding now a proactive, assertive, and present police department. We once had over 1,000 police officers in the city of Portland. At that time, Portland was one of the safest cities in America. We can get back to the 1,000. I support Chief Day's plan to get there, and it's essential. But it's interesting in walking through East Portland how consistent the messaging is about policing. Whether you're in the Chinese community, the Latino community, the Black community, we want to see more police officers. We want them to be responsive. We want them to show up on those terrible days when we need help. And so I think committing to recruiting, which we're having some success, is part of the equation. We also have to look at retention. That is going to be our single biggest challenge in the coming years. We are increasing the pipeline of police officers in the Portland Police Department, but they're still retiring too quickly. So we have to create an environment that is welcoming and supportive of police. Last but not least, I would really encourage folks to pay attention to the new classes in Portland Police. They are becoming more diverse. They are becoming more representative of our community. And again, I think we continue down that path is going to be an essential part of restoring trust. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, folks, police accountability is something which is important to me. I literally have skin in this game, and as the father of 2 teenage boys, I have kin in this game. I very much need the police service to treat people who look like me and my kids fairly. At the same time, when I need to dial 911 and I need a cop to show up, I really need a cop to show up. And frankly, during my time in council, I've had to help call the cops a couple of times. There are a couple of things we can do for police accountability to make this true. Number one, we can stand up a police accountability commission. I'll tell you, I've been working on that steadfastly for my entire time on council. We will have a police accountability commission stood up. This is a citizens group that will oversee the police bureau, or at least their actions during my first term as mayor. I will also tell you, this is something which is brand new. During my time on council, I fought to make sure that there were body cameras on the shoulders of every cop in this town, and today we have that. I'm incredibly proud of that success. I think modernizing our police bureau is incredibly important. In other words, it's important for us to send the right resources for the right problem. So I support Portland Street Response, for example. I will underscore one of the things that I heard Commissioner Gonzalez say. Folks, if you haven't taken a look at our police department lately, you should. The folks who are coming in are diverse, they're young, they're here in Portland because they want to engage in 21st century policing.
Thank you.
So I want to reiterate that the question was about rebuilding the trust, the contract between the Portland police and the citizens that they serve. Unfortunately, we're still under federal oversight because they have a historical mistreatment of our mentally ill. So that's a serious problem. And this police oversight bureau that Mingus spoke of, they have been working hard since 2020, thousands of volunteer hours, and made a 300-plus page document of recommendations. Very sincere hard work, and the current council just eviscerated it. So it is hard to rebuild trust when so many people are ready to forgive, are ready to have a detente. Yes, we all deserve to feel safe, and East Portland, North Portland, those communities especially are wanting more and better policing, and a lot of the police are dealing with stuff downtown, so Portland Street Response, a great model to take some of the heat off our police who are serving. Chat, the fire department program, another great program. So to fund those, to make sure that our policing, our armed officers are dealing with those more serious crimes. I myself, over my 28 years here, I have had my trust rebuilt in the police department. I had a really hard time my first 10 years here. I didn't want to call the cops, even when I saw like an old lady suffering on the side of the road. I was scared. But I have seen them improve. It's possible. Thank you.
Well, as sort of promised, we're going to intersperse some lightning round questions in here. So I'm looking for answers in 20 seconds or less. As we talked about, Portland voters are being asked to vote for up to 6 candidates for mayor in order. So in that spirit, tell us who your second choice for mayor is. Keith Wilson, you're first.
Oh, you're killing me. That's like a bomb in the pocket right there. Jeff, you know, I am not going to vote for a second person. How's that? I'm abstaining.
Mingus.
Rene.
Me? Oh, Carmen. Future is female. Liv.
5 out of 6. That's better than a very famous gubernatorial debate I remember 2 decades ago. I won't get into that. All right. So, one more lightning question. You know, over the decades I've lived here, Portland leaders have talked up big dreams, everything from attracting Major League Baseball to building a world-class aquarium. I want to know, what's your secret dream or something super cool you'd like to see in Portland? Rene Gonzalez.
Revitalize waterfront, maybe with a floating stage.
Sure, I'll take Rene and raise him. I'll tell you, folks, we have plans on the table that still can come for fruition to fundamentally revitalize and reimagine our waterfront, especially on the east side from Almsey to the Burnside Bridge to the Albina District, and then moving up towards the new Interstate Bridge.
I feel like an echo, but I too would want to center our river in the public imagination. That's what connects us. That's our vitality. I want to see the salmon swimming abundantly up it. I want the frog ferry to deliver people from North Portland. Our river is amazing, and let's honor it and celebrate it.
Another echo here, but definitely making sure that we do everything we can to do catalytic developments in our city, on the waterfront, in the Almsey District, in Albina Vision Trust, in Montgomery Park, and we want to make this a destination place so that we can lean into our arts and culture cred.
So I want to take a 1-hour train trip to Seattle in half the time I'm an executive board member for the U.S. High-Speed Rail Association in Washington, D.C. So I work with national figures and our congressional delegation, and we passed the IIJA. I helped with that. And we funded a 9-to-1 match, and we have a bill coming before our legislature next year to start the funding of high-speed rail.
Now back to gritty reality. Under our new system, the council could develop an entire policy agenda and budget that you, whichever one of you becomes mayor, might not even support. How are you going to make sure you can be effective under a new system that some say may even weaken a mayor's power? And we're back to 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer. Mingus Mapps.
Thanks for the question. And indeed, we should all prepare ourselves for this new form of government, which will look fundamentally different from our old form of government. Now, the scenario you laid out is not, or in fact, is highly likely to happen. In our new form of government, the mayor is going to be primarily focused in on a couple of things. Implementing policy, and then also the mayor will be the only person in City Hall who has a citywide constituency. And I think that is incredibly important. I will tell you, a mayor is going to have to work closely with members of council to develop consensus and vision. I'll tell you, we were just taking a look at the number of ordinances that I brought to council over the years, and I think it's well over 500. And during that time, I believe, in fact, I know this is the case, no one who currently serves on city council, I believe, has ever voted against one of my ordinances. I'm incredibly proud of that. It's a sign of my ability to build both sound policy and bridges. Thank you.
the first part of the question is a bit garbled.
Yes, under our new system, the council could develop an entire policy agenda and budget that you, as mayor, might not even support. How are you going to make sure you can be effective under a new system that may even weaken a mayor's power?
Well, I think it's no secret that it is a weak mayor system, and I think I, for instance, am a perfect candidate for exactly that. So it's been the great joy of my life to campaign alongside these 80 or so candidates for city council. They're incredibly bright and passionate and dedicated. They all have Portland's very best interests at heart. And the mayor is the tie-breaking vote. So the council legislates. Professionals are at the head of bureaus, and the mayor is the tie-breaking vote. So if you don't like what they're passing, tough tea, I guess. The mayor also, though, to speak to Mingus's point, like the mayor is citywide, and that's a huge honor too. For the first time, we are hearing voices from East Portland. We're hearing voices from Northeast Portland through the city council candidates, and I would meet weekly with those city councilors to make sure that I knew what those Portlanders were passionate about, because otherwise the mayor can become very siloed. So it's just really exciting. This is such an exciting new form of government, and that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Can you read the question again, please?
Sure. Under our new system, the council could develop an entire policy agenda and budget that you, if you're mayor, might not even support. How are you going to make sure you can be effective under a new system that may even weaken a mayor's power?
Thanks. So we're in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity right now. We're in a pivotal moment for the city because of this new form of government, and we have to get it right. And we're creating the blueprints for the next generation. And that's why in this situation, leadership and temperament really, really matter. The mayor is not going to have a vote on council, so you need to be able to bridge the divide, build coalition, and pass your budget or pass anything else that you need to get passed in council. And that's going to rely solely on your ability to work with people. And I'll be frank, I am the only one up here on council that is a candidate that has passed numerous things by far. More than any of my other competitors, and they have voted for us, so I'm appreciative of that. So I think that's what it's going to take, knowing how to build coalitions, knowing how to work with people, knowing how to sit down at the table, even with folks you disagree with, to find that common ground. So those are the things that we need to make sure that our new mayor has those skills.
Well, no doubt, there's a huge change that we're going to be experiencing on January 1st. It's a power sharing agreement, but it also has an opportunity to supercharge our communication in the city. So it's the voice of the people. So as mayor, if I receive a policy from council that I supposedly don't like, it's my prerogative to maybe not like it, but it's my requirement to make the bill, the policy, or the law to work. I have to follow the intent and the spirit of that law, because essentially it came from your voice. Because we have a representative government now. The councilors have a vote. If the councilors vote, it's your voice. When they pass the law to the city, to the CEO, to the mayor, we have to implement it to the best of our ability. But we have to collaborate when there's a problem, and there will always be a problem. There's never a perfect law. We go back to council and we work with them because we want that law to be made better. Through that collaboration, that trust that we build together, we create that power-sharing agreement, and we make the laws work for all of us. It doesn't mean it's going to be wrong. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. It just means it's an iterative process, because that's what democracy is. But we do it together, and we do it for Portland, and we have to make that law as best as we can. Thank you.
I think there's an assumption underlying the question that needs to be addressed. I think that the mayoral role in the new form of government is very flexible, and under many scenarios it's actually be stronger than the current mayor structure under the commission form of government. The next mayor has rulemaking authority, has ultimate administrative and executive authority, can remove the CAO at any time, names their replacement, and serves in their absence in that role. That is substantial authority sitting in one person that does not exist under the commission form of government. So I think there's some assumptions that we have to test. Yes, if your next mayor wants to do ribbon cutting and nothing else, they're entitled to do that and can delegate to the CAO primary responsibilities. But I envision myself as mayor being much more assertive on public safety, economic development, championing the city across the country and across the globe. So I just want to acknowledge that. Now, in terms of working with council, it is going to be essential that we work at shared understanding of the community's needs. That means going straight to citizens to get their feedback in a much more systematic way than it currently exists. That means that we don't let special interests dictate policy. That means going back to the voters, consistently engaging in each neighborhood, not telling them what we need to do for them, they telling us what we need to do. And I think we center it on the voice of voters, we're going to have less disagreement than is anticipated.
What are your plans for returning the economic vigor and livability that downtown Portland once had? Liv Osthus?
Thank you. This is my question. I see a downtown filled with artists. I see these vacant zombie buildings, my campaign is calling them, rehabbed with art studios and music spaces and low-income housing. Other cities have found ways to convert buildings like this into housing in, what did Keith say when I heard 2 months? And Portland has yet to do one of them. Humans thrive in density, we're bees. Look at all of these downtown places just waiting for vitality and creativity. I'm an artist. I am so tired of seeing my artist friends get pushed out and move to Spokane and move to Virginia. It's hard to keep the band together when the bass player's in Boise. This downtown, you have artist spaces down here. It will be like Soho or the Pearl District. Very soon there will be coffee shops and daycares and lunch places, and we will have the economic engine of the arts that we remember from the early aughts, bringing people from around the world to beautiful Portland. Thank you.
So we absolutely need a new vision and to reimagine our downtown, and I believe we can become that world-class city that we were on our way to be before COVID hit. And also, I just want to say I feel very encouraged, because I don't know if you've been downtown lately, but I spend a lot of time downtown during the week and on the weekends, and it is definitely vibing lately. And we have such a thriving arts and cultural scene right now, and earlier this summer, the Foo Fighters and Green Day were here. I don't know if you remember that, but it brought in 25,000 people, and 2/3 of those attendees were from out of town. So that's good for tourism, that's good for Portland. So I feel like we need to continue with that winning formula by making sure that we revitalize in the short term and also invest in the future. And our winning formula is building and converting more housing in our downtown core. That's a huge opportunity for us that helps us with our housing goal and also helps us bring back people, residential life, community life, social life, activation into our downtown. Also increasing our presence of safety and also doubling down on our support for small and medium-sized businesses. They have been through thick and thin, and we also are comprised of 61% small businesses in our local economy. We need to act like that as a city. And then also meaningfully invest in arts and culture sector. It's critical to our identity, and it's something that's organically grown, but we need to take it seriously for the huge economic contribution that it is. Thank you.
The solution isn't complex. If we end the shelter homelessness, restore cleanliness and safety, we'll welcome an influx of jobs and investment back to Portland. You know what, I like what Carmen was talking about and Liv as well, but let's talk about our urban core, about making it vibrant, add back restaurants, create that transportation-oriented village that we're focused on. We have office to residentials that are just sitting there ready to be converted. We have a $3 million credit. It's only to be used if you do an earthquake upgrade. But what if you have a Class A building that's sitting there empty or near empty, but it has already been upgraded? We need to be more nimble. We need to be more quick with our credits. We need to bucket that money. And if somebody has a 12,000, a 14,000 square foot building that they want to convert, and we provide a credit for it, we need to allow that building to earn that income to get our developers developing instead of standing in their way. So Lee was talking about, there are cities out there that are focused on this. They will create a permit for an office to residential conversion in 2 months. There are cities out there that have converted 1,200 units in 2 years. Portland hasn't converted even one. We need to restore our downtown core and recognize it's going to change. We're not going to get all the downtown offices and the workers that we once had. So let's change our core and create a new vibrant city for the future instead of one that's built on the past.
We need to revolutionize prosper Portland. This is the economic development of the city of Portland. It once built big projects in the city of Portland with incredible success. The Pearl, the South Waterfront, so much of our city was driven by its predecessor. It's become a social engineering organization, and it needs to be redeployed, refocused on big projects with multiplying effect. When you're talking about the urban core, that includes the future performing arts, whether it's at the Keller or further up the pathway there. It also includes Broadway corridor. It very well may mean baseball on the South Waterfront, and what that can do for our downtown. These large projects have multiplying effect economically, including for your downtown city. I also want to talk about the tenure. You know, the Telegraph just covered the city of Portland for the first time in a long time. They talked about my run for mayor. They talked about Nate Vasquez getting elected as DA. And it was actually changing their advice to people wanting to visit Portland. They were saying, go to Portland again. I was there 2 years ago, much worse place. So when we take a stand on safety and beauty and a clean downtown, it matters. It actually attracts people back in. Also, your city leadership needs to be in the office every day. I've required that of my team. It helps build critical mass downtown, and it's essential that the city government leads the private sector on bringing people back down. Thank you.
Well, folks, it's no secret why downtown is struggling right now. Folks are afraid because in recent years, downtown has been dangerous, it's been dirty. It's much better than folks think it is, so if you haven't been in the downtown area recently, I encourage you to come down. But if we're going to revitalize downtown, we have to take the basics seriously. Livability, safety are key. We've got to clean up that graffiti. I'll tell you one other important lesson from the pandemic. The neighborhoods that survived the pandemic most effectively have a richer mix of commercial and residential compared to what we currently have downtown. In other words, we need to have more folks living downtown. Other things that I think we can do, and I will lean into as your next mayor, is to create incentives for folks to sign leases downtown or to renew their leases downtown. I will also say that activation is incredibly important. Portland is starting to come back, as we heard from Renee's story. So our ability to support the arts, either through sports or theater, I think is incredibly important. And I will tell you, one of the tools that I will use as your next mayor to help revitalize our downtown core is tax increment financing. I think there's some real ability there to reimagine our city for the 21st century. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. This is another question from City Club members, asked also in several different ways. Basically, what's your position on Portland's street response? I think that has received a lot of interest from citizens, and many, frankly, aren't sure why it hasn't been more visible. So let's see, we're starting with Carmen Rubio.
So I am a staunch supporter of Portland street response, and as I mentioned in my earlier comments, that we need the right responders in all the right roles. And I am clearly the only one on council that has been a strong advocate and very much believe that we need to stabilize it, both funding-wise and politically stabilize it, so it's not batted around anymore. And I believe also that there's different ways for us to capacitate Portland Street Response so it can become a true part of the first responder system, not replacing anything that's happening now, but really adding capacity back so that other responders can focus on what they do best and what their expertise is. Thank you.
I agree with Carmen. Portland Street Response is the future of our public safety system. So our firefighters are called out, and 80% of their calls are dealing with the unsheltered. So we're completely sending a 4-man team or a 4-person team to something that could be handled by Portland Street Response and should be handled by Portland Street Response. But we need to expand their mission. You know, they don't do transport. When I spoke to and I rode with Portland Street Response, I said, would you support a sobering center? They all said yes. We need a sobering center. We need Portland Street Response to have their mission expanded to care for Portlanders, because we have people literally while we're driving away or walking away tonight on the street that need help now. Portland Street Response has 2 vehicles that are generally running on some days. They have 6. We need that asset to be fully utilized. We have fire stations that are, station 1's doing 13,000 calls. Portland Street Response, that's 1 station doing 13,000 calls. We have all of Portland Street Response only doing 7,800 calls a year with 6 units. If we're serious about an unarmed response for public safety, then let's fully fund Portland Street Response. Let's get it to a 24-hour period. Let's allow them to do transport, and let's do this working and working well.
PSR and CHAT are both very solid programs for the city of Portland, solving different components of the alternative response need. But we also have to level set. Both of the programs were stood up with one-time money. That has been a real challenge in stabilizing them. So for PSR and for CHAT, which is the fire equivalent primarily of medical, we need to protect its ongoing financial support, which is what we call CAP, Continuous Authorization of the Core Budget. So that's a major component. Secondly, though, I think it's very, very important that we don't lose sight of the fact that these alternative responses do not replace core public safety. They augment. So we redeployed CHAT to respond to some of the overdoses in Fire Station 1. Incredibly successful. Instead of sending a 4-person rig, we sent a 2-person rig, much more efficient, saving both ambulance resources and fire resources. But it augments fire support. We still need 31 fire stations in the city of Portland in case you have a heart attack, your loved one has a stroke, or there's a fire in your neighborhood, and there needs to be an 8-minute response. That has to be close to your home, in close proximity. So alternative response doesn't fix that part. Also, one of the challenging parts with Portland Street Response is often we will send those as an alternative police, but police will still have to interact with the same person several weeks later, several months later. If we don't address the underlying behavioral health needs in our community, those alternative responses can't fix that systemic challenge. Thank you.
I too support Portland Street Response. I'll tell you folks, during my time on council, I have been key to the implementation and expansion of Portland Street Response. As the commissioner in charge of 911, I was key and core to the team that was trying to figure out how do we take Port PSR from a pilot project out to what's part of the program that you see today. It is truly what the future of public safety looks like here in the city of Portland. But let me tell you what I hope the next step is. I want to make sure that Portland Street Response is able to connect our clients on the streets to services offered by the county. So I'll tell you, when I am talking about the need to define the lanes that the city runs in and the lanes that the county runs in, that's partly what I mean. We've got thousands of city workers who interact with the public all the time. Every time we see a person in need, one of the things I hope that we can do is connect them to county services. Frankly, we can do that by clear thinking and clear agreements with our partners over at the county.
Isn't it amazing? It sounds like we're all in agreement here. We all love Portland Street Response with maybe some qualifications, and it's a program that's working, and it is propped up with one-time funding. So we need to make sure that funding is robust, dedicated, because it's hard to retain great employees when you don't know if you're going to have a job come January. So make sure that politically and funding-wise, that is a stable program. How many? So you've all heard of PSR? Who's heard of CHAT? Okay, like. Not too many. CHAT is a fire department wing. It stands for Community Health Assess and Treat. They are able to treat people in the field, unlike Portland Street Response. This is an amazing group of people. Their budget is like $3.2 million, and it's one-time funding. They're done in January. They have amazing nurses, fire people, employees that don't know if they're going to have a job. But they are a critical wing of this public safety network that we need to fund adequately. It's going to be a tighter budget next year, but these are things that help our public safety servants take the burden off of them and make sure that they are available for the higher acuity calls. So PSR, like we're familiar with, get familiar with CHAT and agitate to make sure that the funding there is adequate and keeps happening. It's a really amazing program. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. When I moved here in 1984, I'm dating myself now, Portland was famous for its strong neighborhood associations that Myers said helped play a key role in preserving the vitality of many older inner city neighborhoods. Since then, in many ways, it fell out of favor. A lot said it really left a lot of residents unserved. And we seem to be sort of trying to figure out what to do next. And I want to ask each of the candidates what their plan is for involving residents in preserving and creating strong, vital neighborhoods. And Keith Wilson.
I'm a big supporter of neighborhoods, but that would go with saying that I'm a strong supporter of most groups, affinity groups, community-based organizations, you name it. Because if you're a Portlander, we need to all be together. We have to create more of a chain link fence instead of choosing sides and seeing which side is better. Are you housed? Are you a homeowner? Are you a renter? We actually need all those flavors working together. And then when you think about neighborhood associations, think about neighborhood emergency teams. These are the unsung heroes that are training every year to get ready for an earthquake, that are tied into the neighborhood associations. When that, God forbid, event occurs, they're the ones who are going to be chasing and running and helping you at that moment. That's that ecosystem of our community being built together, and that's called one community. And when you build that chain link fence, in other words, when you walk out of here and you see somebody in distress, or you see some garbage, or you see something that's out of sorts, it's incumbent upon all of you to try and help. And when you do that, not only in your neighborhood, but go one neighborhood further, that's when you create that chain link fence. So let's supercharge neighborhood associations, make sure that they're funded appropriately, but then let's make sure that we're funding other community-based organizations that are built on volunteers, because our city is built on volunteerism, and that's what really makes us great, is when we support one another, we support a stronger community to really overcome those challenges that are going to come, that are here. Thank you.
For ideological reasons, it's felt like neighborhood associations have been under siege for years now, and we really need to stop that. They are true local democracy. They are true intimacy with the democratic process at the neighborhood level. I'm hopeful that in the new form of government, they'll have direct tie-ins to your district reps, the three that will represent you, that there's a direct connection there for real grassroots at the neighborhood level engagement on the future of our city, on the future of legislation. I also would like to bring back neighborhood watches and tie them more directly into neighborhood associations, along with business watches. What Keith was referring to are called our net teams. This is really a key part of community resiliency when we talk about things like the Cascadia events or other natural emergencies, and continue to think through how we tie that more deeply into neighborhood associations. Last but not least, we are going to redefine what community engagement looks like in the new form of government. And that goes everything from advisory boards to how we solicit neighbors' interest in a policy issue. And I think neighborhood associations can be a really key component of that. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I very much appreciate this question. I'll tell you, neighborhood associations are near and dear to my heart. For those of you who know me, you might remember that before I served on city council, I was the guy who ran the city's neighborhood association system. And even if you don't apply for me, you can certainly apply for the neighborhood associations. And one of the reasons why I took that job is we had something truly unique with our neighborhood association system. We invented it. I'll tell you, when I had that job, I would have delegations come in from around the world to see what we were doing with our neighborhood association system. You know, it was an important tool to supporting livability, public safety, community engagement. You're absolutely right. Inside of City Hall, neighborhood associations very much fell out of favor. I didn't like that, which is one of the things that drove me to run for council the first time. But I will also tell you, if you love the neighborhood association system, I'm excited for the future. I think our neighborhoods and our neighborhood coalitions mesh nicely with the new district form of government that we have. I'll tell you, our next government, especially if I'm your mayor, is going to be focused in on solving neighborhood problems. Our neighborhood associations are the folks who are on the ground, who have been doing this work for years, and know how to get that sidewalk addressed, or the crosswalk built, or do a neighborhood cleanup, or organize a neighborhood watch, which I used to help organize. I'll tell you, I think our best years for the neighborhood association system are ahead. Thank you.
So I'm in full support of neighborhood associations for all the reasons mentioned. I think they are a vital method for people to engage in democracy. However, there is one group of people that has largely been left out, and those are the renters. Renters move around more, and there's a lack of voice in City Hall. I own a duplex. I am a low-income landlord, so I kind of straddle a lot of these divides, but my heart is with the renters because I have been pushed around by gentrification my whole time in Portland, and it's really important. We want renters to be involved in neighborhood associations too, so we've got to figure out ways to engage all of the community. This new city council system with representation from East Portland, where a lot of people rent and there's a dearth of services. This is a perfect place, a petri dish to start figuring out how neighborhood associations can really work with a large rental population. We need services for youth in those neighborhoods so that they have something to do. Bowling alleys, can the city sponsor some bowling alleys in East Portland? Groceries, cooperative groceries, but let's make sure that the renters have a voice at these tables too. And also I love this idea for like climate resiliency. We need our neighbors connected, we need our neighbors' support, because it's not when, it's if things are gonna go dark, literally and figuratively. Okay, thanks.
So neighborhood associations, community-based organizations, net teams, renters, coalition officers, faith communities, all of these groups contribute to safer neighborhoods, stronger neighborhoods, and connected communities. And that's, in fact, when I worked for Mayor Potter, that was the plan. It was called Community Connects. And it was connecting all these groups together so that they would co-create plans for civic engagement. And there was a lot of really great things that came out and cohesiveness that came out of that time. So I believe in keeping that historic civic role for all of these groups and keep it going. It can evolve with the new form of government. But I also think it's a time to step up and not shrink back from its role, because it can actually bring a lot to bear in this transition, and it will only make that connection to our new district stronger. Thank you.
All right, thank you. In 2021, the City Council approved the residential infill project that allows so-called middle housing, think triplexes, cottage clusters, whatever, in neighborhoods that were once largely zoned for single-family homes. How do you think the program has worked, and do you want to encourage or discourage its growth? And Rene Gonzalez, you're first up.
We are mammothly underproducing market rate in middle housing in the city, the region, the state. We're going to produce about 1,000 units this year. We should be producing 5,000 to 6,000 to stay commensurate with population. The promises of middle housing that the Info Project put forth have really not come to fruition in any material way. There are some exceptions. There are some places where it's being leveraged, but it simply hasn't triggered what we needed in terms of housing production to stay up with population. It's sort of adjacent to this topic is inclusionary zoning, the requirement that about 20 units, that you have affordable housing. Again, a venerable goal to put that requirement, but it has not led to the housing production we were seeking. We're seeing a lot of developers choose to go with 19 units as opposed to 20 to 30 to avoid the inclusionary zoning requirements. That fails us all, in particular the middle class, or those that would otherwise be targeted with middle housing. So I think in general, the project irritated a lot of neighborhoods and didn't lead to the production we were hoping. I really want to lean in our housing production strategy going forward that's much more radical, but possibly paring back inclusionary zoning, really rethinking system development charges, infrastructure investments that we're requiring of developers to drive the housing we need, not just for us, but for our kids so they can afford this town. Thank you.
I support RIP. I was on council as we were considering that important proposal. I might disagree with Commissioner Gonzalez a little bit. At the time, I think the expectation was not that RIP would suddenly produce an explosion of new housing growth. Indeed, that was one of the concerns that neighbors had. Instead, it kind of creates the conditions for more dense development as we move forward. And that's pretty much what we've seen. I think the larger lesson here is that the residential infill projects didn't do what we need in terms of bringing on new housing to Portland. We all know that multifamily housing in the city of Portland has basically come to a halt. People are not building in Portland anymore. Frankly, part of that is a product of reputation. And we all can understand why. If you've ever pulled a permit from the 1900 building where a lot of us currently reside, you know it can take years to get all your permits in order. That's why if you have a couple of $1 million to invest either in Portland or in Vancouver, increasingly investors and developers are choosing to build not in Portland. We desperately need more housing in this town, and frankly, I think the space where we have the most influence here, the most leverage, is permit reform. I've worked on that my whole time here. I believe we have to simplify and rationalize the rules that we have around how and what you build in this town.
So the cost of living is too damn high here. It is too high for all of us. Thank you. We need to make it easy to make no-income housing, low-income housing, and middle-income housing. That's where the real dirt is. Thank you. And again, I see this opportunity downtown. These tall, vacant buildings they need to be rehabbed. It would be environmentally unconscionable for everyone to come back downtown for work, but people can live here. Density is environmental, and humans prefer to live in density. I remember living in Stuttgart, Germany, and just noticing how the towns were very dense, and therefore you had these big green spaces between them. We want to maintain our green spaces. So infill, I'm for. And the housing that I have seen developed in the last 4 years, primarily it is for higher income people, and a lot of it's vacant now because it's not there's not as much of a demand for it. But my artist friends and neighbors were really struggling to find places that suit us and our families. So no income housing, low income housing, middle income housing. Thank you.
Commissioner who oversaw the development of our first housing production strategy, and as a strategy of that strategy, we absolutely need to focus on our affordable and middle income housing for sure. I too am a big supporter of inclusionary housing. Because of inclusionary housing, we have more than 1,000 new affordable units available in the city of Portland that would not be there otherwise. Also, I'm supportive of residential infill, and we still will need that 120,000 new units, remember, that I mentioned earlier, and we have to make up for past decades of underproduction. And so what we've already gotten started, we've passed policies to make housing less expensive and easier, and also got rid of conflicting codes that cause confusion and stall things out. We also consolidated permitting and secured funds for major redevelopment projects like OMSI and Broadway Corridor. And soon I'll bring to council 6 new investment districts with 45% of those funds from those districts dedicated to affordable housing. And that's what we need to keep in place, because no other city is doing what Portland is doing. So we have an opportunity here to finally reach those goals of housing and hopefully make it more affordable to live and work in Portland. Thank you.
So I support residential infill, and one of the core values that I'll bring to the city as mayor is sustainability. That is how we increase or we decrease our emissions in our city, is to build that density, to allow our transportation system to move faster with more people so we can replace cars, lower emissions, and really focus on a more equitable city. But I want to go back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. But we have to fix Portland first. So we've lost tens of thousands of people who've left the city in the last 5 years. We grew for the previous 40 before that. And housing and housing production was really important, but right now we see rents being forgiven for 2 months or 6 months to move in. So we're in an epic point right now where we have to switch and we have to start focusing on livability and public safety so we can really utilize residential infill, so we can really reach its potential, which is so necessary for us as a city. And then talking about affordable housing and building it affordably. I look at 2 projects next to Flint Street. One is an affordable housing project. It's going to be delivered at $700,000 per door. A building right next to it is going to be delivered at $300,000 per door as a market rate building. We have to be able to reduce the complexity of affordable housing. We can't have affordable housing at twice the cost of market-built housing as well, so we can afford it and so we can have our money go further to build more units.
All right, we're not on live TV, so you know what? I'm just going to go for one more question, and if people want to rush for the doors like it's a Trump rally, feel free. Sorry, that was an easy shot from this guy. Traffic congestion is worse than it was before the pandemic. That's a stat that amazes me. Despite so many people working from home, despite supposedly, the people who are leaving, transit is struggling. The road maintenance backlog is humongous, I think is the technical term. And we're far from meeting safe street goals. How do you have a positive vision for how we can better move ourselves around the city? And Mingus Mapps, you get to begin.
Thank you. As the commissioner or the former commissioner in charge of Peapod, this is a space I know well. Here are a couple of things every Oregonian and every Portlander needs to know. The systems that we use to fund our transportation system are fundamentally broken. Over at Peapod, when I was in charge, thank you, but it's a sad truth. We fundamentally, the dollars that we use to fill potholes and to build bike lanes basically come from parking meter revenues and gas taxes. I'll tell you, our parking meter revenues are down because lots of people are working from home 1 or 2 days a week. And gas taxes are going down because cars are much more efficient. In the long term, and not even long term, frankly, this is one of the questions we'll be dealing with in the next legislative session. And that's also why it's very important that you have a mayor who's tuned into transportation issues in the next year, is we need to work with our state legislature to develop a new system for funding our transportation system. Ultimately, I believe that's going to be a vehicle miles traveled tax. I don't think there's a lot of controversy around that. There's a lot of work that we need to do between here and there, and we need our state partners in order to implement that, but I think that's the way forward. The other thing that we really need to continue to focus on is to build a multimodal transportation system so that you can get where you want to go, how you want to get there. When I was your commissioner in charge of Peapod, those are the values I brought to this work. And when I'm your mayor, those are also the values I'll bring to leading this city.
So here's a conflict confluence of all my favorite ideas. I love public transit. I know that TriMet is a metro, but whenever I travel, I have a fetish for public transportation. So I envision our TriMet being the biggest public art project on the West Coast. Let's partner with our communities to connect them with TriMet, like Frog Ferry, I love that too, but partner with artists to make TriMet so vibrant. Make it free. Everyone will ride it if it's free. The public safety aspect. It will be safer if it's free and everyone rides it, and it's a very wholesome place. It will be inspiring for our people suffering from addiction even. They'll be like, gosh, I want to get sober because this is so rad. That's my vision. And then P-Lot gets help because there's not as many potholes, because not as many people are driving. There's more cycling because not as many people are driving and it's safer. And that's my vision. And please, next mayor, whomever you may be, take it and run. Thank you.
I absolutely agree with Liv. I 100 support free transit. We need to really focus on multimodal transportation because this is a new way and climate change is here, people, and we need to start acting like it. And so I also think that we can think about how we increase the greening of our public transit as well. And I think there are multiple new opportunities to figure out how we crosswalk investments and funds like PSEF with transportation and TriMet. And some of those discussions are already happening, so it's very exciting. And also, as my colleague mentioned, we do need to explore other ways to address revenue challenges in our declining revenue for transportation. So we do need to push and work with the state for those solutions and for those partnerships so that we can continue to do our basic services that we're required to do as a local jurisdiction, and also make sure that we're putting safety infrastructure in so that we can maintain our safe streets. Thank you.
I'll tackle it from the congestion standpoint. So congestion has increased 250% since about the mid-90s for all of us. So we're spending more and more time in a car. The unfortunate thing is that we led the nation just a matter of 7-8 years ago with walking, biking, and transit. We've lost that. It's gone down by half. So the TriMet goal for 2030 is for 120 million riders. Today, it's 60 million riders. That's their goal, and they have to achieve that, because if they don't, all of us just are suffering more and more delay and frustrations. So we have to make sure that we have a public safety system and a transit system that are tied together. When we hand out when we use our transit for a cooling shelter or a warming shelter, without providing basic shelter for those, we're misusing that very important transit system, and then it feels and/or is unsafe. When our multi-use path, when we're trying to bike to the gateway parking garage, and we're going through a humanitarian crisis, and we don't bike anymore. And these are things that I'm hearing from people that used to bike to the transit system to use it in a multimodal situation. We're forcing families to then drive their kids to school. We're forcing bus drivers that are uncomfortable or feel unsafe in a job that they should have as a routine and caring for their customers, which is you and me. We need a safer system in Portland. We need to improve livability, and then we need to invest in walking, biking, and transit and protected systems so we can move from our cars and move faster to work. Thank you.
When I chose to start my professional career in Portland, I thought it was the most European city in 2000. A place where you could walk, where you cycle, where you took public transit. It is, and certainly was, a central part of our identity as a city, that we embrace all of those various components. I will say in recent years, at times, that's also become dogmatic. It was never a war on cars. It was walk and cycle and take public transit because it was healthy, because it was social. And so I just want to maybe observe in recent years that it's become a little bit more brutal. And I would also submit, when you're talking about in East Portland, if you're a single mom with 2 kids and you get to a doctor, you're still going to use your car. And if you're working in the outer suburbs and you work downtown, you're likely still going to need to use a car to get to work. So I think we have to acknowledge sometimes the classism in public transit discussion can go too far. I echo Commissioner Mapps' points on stabilizing funding for transportation in our region. This is a really tough nut to crack, and we're just going to have to partner with various government parties going forward on that. I also want to call out that I think a lot of the congestion in our region is in the suburban areas. We do have some of it in the city, but we've got to get I-5 expansion done. We've got to get the Interstate Bridge project done. It is a major congestion point on the West Coast. It's frankly an embarrassment for us, and we're not protecting the climate when cars are idling on I-5. Thank you.
All right, I'm getting the hook there. Not even room for a goofy lightning round question? Let's do it. One thing I love about mayor is it's something that everybody understands or thinks they do. It's a familiar office to them. So in that spirit, who's your favorite mayor ever, anywhere, any city, anytime? And I'm going to leave Osthus, you're first.
Man, mayor, I just like Jesse Body Ventura. I know he's the governor, but I'm a big Tim Walz fan now. I'm from Minnesota. Bud Clark, he was before my time, but I'm a big fan too.
It would have to be Mayor Tom Potter because he brought in community policing into the city of Portland, and he was the first chief to ever walk in at the Gay Pride Parade on behalf of his daughter.
It would be Bud Clark. So, Commissioner Mike Lindbergh has become a good friend. Dan Steffi, who was the assistant mayor to Bud Clark, we work and we're focusing on our unsheltered plan. But every time I hear about Bud, I hear about the story where he walked into a small business and they just gave it to him because Old Town was not vibrant. It was struggling. And Bud turned over to Dan Steffi and said, "You need to fix this." And they came up with a plan and ended in shelter homelessness in 12 months. Now that's bold and ambitious leadership, and that's what we need in Portland today.
Vera. By the way, Santa Astor goes that Bud Clark solves homelessness. We see it, deal with it every day. But she was tough as nails, still knew how to get a deal done, and could laugh.
And I would say Vera too. I'll tell you, when I first graduated from college, I got a job. One of my very first jobs was in Bev Stein's office, when she was Multnomah County Chair, and Vera was mayor. So I spent a lot of time bouncing back and forth, literally taking pieces of paper because that's the way the world worked back in those days. So I got a chance to see Vera literally in her prime. I love her vision, very much inspired me to do the work I do today. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Round of applause for the candidates.
Revitalization.